What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Limited Resources. This is episode number 255. I'm one of your Limited Resources. I'm Marshall. You know me. I missed you last week, by the way. I was in at the Pro Tour in Hawaii, and as I mentioned the week before on Brian's last show, I figured it would probably be a good time to take a break there, just because I was going in early to do vacation-y stuff, and like finding a co-host on that short notice was a little bit hectic. So I think that was the right decision, but we're back at it now, and I've got with me the first of what is going to be probably a long line of guest hosts. We're going to kind of figure this out together as we've done in the past, where I'm going to have a bunch of different people on. I'm not really viewing it as like tryouts or anything like that. I'm just like, let's just have a whole bunch of different types of personalities and people and give them a shot and kind of see how it goes. And when something sticks, something sticks. I'm not putting them up on the chopping block, so to speak. But the first one is a very special guest who you will undoubtedly recognize from he's the number one Magic streamer. So from his stream on twitch.tv, as well as his previous appearances here on Limited Resources, it is Kenji Egashira, aka Numotthenummy. Kenj Bopolopoulos, what's up, buddy?
That is me. Hello, hello, hello. Glad to be here as always, Marshall. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you coming on. You're my go-to guy. There's no other way to put it. Whenever anything happens where I need it, I'm just like Kenji, because I love what you do. I follow your stuff. I've always tried to support you in the best way that I can to make you successful, because I think you're awesome. And anytime I can get you on the show, I'm super happy to do it. And especially when I get you all to myself like this, just you and me, buddy.
Well, furthermore, I'm sitting on my butt all day, and that I can always come on no matter what the time or the circumstance.
Well, I appreciate you making the time, because I do realize that you work from home, air quotes, but at the same time, it's not easy, right? Like making time for stuff like this is not easy, and I appreciate you taking the time. Before we jump into any of our main topics and discussion points, of course, got to mention Card Kingdom. CardKingdom.com is the sponsor of this podcast, and it's for good reason. They deliver product very quickly to you. They have a great website that's real easy to use, and they stand by their product once they do so. I have had just countless emails and tweets of people that said, I listened to what you said, and I was really happy with what happened when I went to Card Kingdom, either in person or on their website. They're one of the big players in the Magic game. They will have what you want, most likely, and they will deliver it to you quickly, like I mentioned before, which is really kind of one of their big things. Also, don't forget, you can sell your cards to them. They offer 30% bonus on trade-ins, or you can just get straight cash for your cards if you need that. They have really nice buy list that pays good, solid, fair prices for your cards, and I highly recommend checking that out as well. I mean, you can turn your rares right back into draft product, just like Kenji does on Magic Online, but in real life. So make sure you check out CardKingdom.com. What else? I had one other thing, Kenji, before we start doing our Khans of Tarkir. I can't wait to get your thoughts on Khans. It's been such a crazy, interesting, cool format so far, and it's been absurdly popular. You and I were chatting about that before the show kicked off, that just like your stream numbers are up. I have the download numbers for the set review show, and it has set new records that I was hoping to get at some point, but now all of a sudden it's here for downloads, and all that. And this set is just absurdly popular.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites in recent history, I think.
Is it a candidate? Now, I would never ask you to pin it yet because we are so early in the format, but is it a candidate for your favorite of all time?
Yeah, I think so. I'm really fond of those multicolor formats where, you're basically base 3 color usually. And again, Invasion Block was my favorite up to this point. I don't know if it's taken over yet, but I love drafting it still.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's definitely, I have it earmarked as a candidate for mine.
I agree.
I'm not sure, like, the real test comes on draft 70, 80, 100, right? Like, it's when you get
I might
super
be close
deep
to that number.
Yeah, and you're insane. I mean, for you, I don't even like, how many times I know we're a little off here, but how many times did you say you draft like an average big block format?
I think Theros was 300 to 400 times.
300 to 400 times.
Yeah.
Do you just hate it by the end?
I did.
I mean, it grinds you down, right?
I didn't like Theros as much at the end there, but I think that was partially because of, I don't know, the all-in nature of the format. If you just stick a bestow creature or something like that. I think this format feels a lot different.
God, that's insane, by the way. Yeah, I mean, I remember drafting Innistrad. I probably drafted a little over 100 times, and I was still loving that. But I think that's the format that I've drafted the most. Maybe Return to Ravnica. I had a lot of free time then, and I was really blasting through that. But yeah, anyway, one other thing before we get started with our Crack-A-Packs and such is the Patreon. I wanted to mention that. Thank you. We have hit a milestone on the Patreon where I am going to be guaranteeing doing the imaged set reviews with the ones on YouTube with every set now. So the Commons and Uncommon show and the Rare and Mythic Rare show will have card images on the YouTube channel with every set. Thanks to hitting the milestone, I can now free up some either time or resources to make sure that happens. And I'm actually working with a listener now that I'm not going to quite say what we're doing yet. As far as like official, like this is what's going to happen, but I'm working on making the video look better and cooler and all that stuff. Thanks to the Patreon. And also I just wanted to say thanks to you, the listener, for supporting the show. If you want to find out more about it, you can find it at lrcast.com. Okay.
Well, congrats on the milestone. I know a lot of people are using that.
It's been great
now. Yeah.
Yeah. I put in like, I don't know, 3 or 4 months of work beforehand to get that.
I know you are just a workime so
it was brutal. That thing was nasty, but I had a lot riding on it, like monetarily and time investment wise. And I'm super, super, super happy to see that people have caught on. They get it. It's clicking with them and it's working out. Cause you know how it is with newer things like that. It's like, sometimes people are like, I don't really get it. I don't like this. This isn't a real thing. And then they don't do it.
It just takes a while to catch on. And then once it does, I think people will come around.
Oh, and the other thing I wanted to mention, and Kenji, this is awesome, by the way. And people talk about you all the time in a good way, is the limited resources community page on subreddit, on Reddit, our subreddit on there. It is fantastic. Like people, there's constant conversation. The mods in there that we have are great. They've made a bot. So whenever I put up a poster, or make a new, episode, it shows up so that people can discuss it. They put up deck lists. They put up, what's the pick, kind of their own Crack-A-Packs, or maybe like, here's pack 3, pick 6. What should I have taken here? They ask, new player type questions, just, about mana bases or, removal and that kind of thing, how to evaluate cards. And, of course, our listeners. And I mean, I know that there's a huge crossover between, your audience, Kenji, and ours. And so, it's great. You can just go there, chat about Magic, chat about Limited. It's super chill. They really did embrace the, you gotta love Magic, don't be a jerk, type mentality. And you just see very little, negativity there. And if it does, it just gets like kind of downvoted into oblivion almost immediately. But I gotta say, I wasn't sure if that was really gonna fly, if that particular ship was gonna set sail, but it did. And it's really great. You should do something like that, Kenji.
Really? You think so?
I think so. I mean, I don't know. Maybe your chat room, fills that role because you're live.
Yeah, I think I get enough of the feedback instantly.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, because for us, it was like people wanted to talk, and we have the clan, on Magic Online, and like there's so many people in that. But since Magic Online doesn't really support that very well, it's one of those things where it's like, well, maybe we should look elsewhere, and this seemed to have worked. All right, you want to crack a pack here? I'm doing it.
Let's do it.
I'm gonna smell it this time, by the way, you monster. Yes. I'll never forgive you for that.
I wanted to do it to the second one, but
but you couldn't help yourself.
I'm actually checking out the LR Cast subreddit right now. 30 people currently reading.
Oh, that's nice.
2,100, it looks like. People
2,100 whatever subscribers or whatever it's called. Yeah, and that's like, it's only been there for, I don't know, a month or something like that. So super stoked. All right, first card, Crippling Chill.
All right, I like that.
I like that one too.
Nice combat trick thing.
Yeah, Enoch Tracker is next.
That's the red first striker.
Yeah, 3/3 first strike on morphs for 4 and a red, and it costs 5 and a red to cast if you want. Card's been okay, but I kind of preferred the Canyon Lurkers, the 5/2.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that guy. That guy's 4 to morph and just bleh.
And it hits hard, yeah. The best, well, maybe not the absolute, but definitely like highlights is when they block with their Archer's Parapet, and you're just like, yeah.
Gotcha. Well, they don't expect it like 4 mana.
Ooh, here's a good one. Feet of Resistance.
I think that's the best combat trick in Khans.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
And I mentioned this on the stream at the Pro Tour. I think it's one of the best combat tricks they've printed in a little while. Like, like God's Willing was really, really good in that particular set. And there's definitely been some nice ones, but Feet of Resistance, God, that card's good. Like, it's good defensively, it's good offensively, and they made it cheap enough so that you're not taking like this huge risk. And then when you add to the fact that the removal in this set is generally pretty slow, right? It's like, fairly clunky. Feet of Resistance just slots in perfectly. I've been super impressed by that card.
Yeah, and it just synergizes with all of the the 1/1 counter creatures, right? It's just like
all the Outlaster, especially the ones that give other abilities and
first strike or anything like that.
I guess my guy has first strike now. It's like, God. I mean, like, it wasn't winning combat anyway, but still. Hooting Mandrills.
Hoot hoot.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, I like him.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm not like, I probably won't be first picking it, but I rarely cut them for my green decks.
Sultai is one of my favorite clans.
God, I'm glad to hear you say that. I love drafting Sultai, but I never get to because everybody takes all my value cards, so I end up playing red-white or something. But,
boo.
Yeah. Disowned Ancestor.
All right, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's fine. That's the black 0/4 with Outlast for 1 and a black.
Then you curve him into the Kin Tree Invocation.
Oh yeah,
0/4.
Yeah. I comboed off on one of the side drafts of the Pro Tour. I had I went a little deep, not the deepest I've gone, but a little deep, and I had a Dragon's Eye Savants.
Oh, the 06
into Kin Tree Invocation.
Yes, Marshall. Yes,
yeah, we did it. Alabaster Kirin.
I love that card.
That card's sweet, right?
Yeah. I think it's excellent.
I was glad to hear you say that because I've got it kind of earmarked as just one of those cards that just fits perfectly in the format, right? Like, it's not great, right? Like, you look at it and it's like, okay, yeah, all right, some decent stats, a reasonable price. I like what its abilities. But man, when you play this card in the set, it's just like your opponent's like, crap. Like, flying is always good, but it really does seem particularly good in this set. The Vigilance is nice because you can still block morphs. And speaking of blocking morphs, 2/3 is just the sweet spot in this set. Yeah. I like that card a lot. I like this next one too. Abomination of Gadul.
Oh yeah, that's a nice Sultai creature.
Yeah. So that's the 3/4 flying that loots when it hits, and it costs 2 in Sultai to unmorph him. And here's a card that, I had a chat on the easy chairs at the Pro Tour. I had a fun, we called it spell counterspell. It's kind of like point counterpoint. Discussion, and I picked 2 players who were 6-0 in the draft at the Pro Tour. It was Sean McLaren and Stanislav Sivka. And the card he talked about the most was Mystic of the Hidden Way. I have one in my hand here. It's the 3/2 unblockable for 4 and a blue, or you can morph for 2 and a blue. And he loves this card. Like,
he said it was the best common in the set, right?
He did. He said he takes it over anything. I think I asked him, or it came up about debilitating injury or this, and McLaren said he'd take debilitating injury, but Sivka said he'd take Mystic of the Hidden Way. And the way he said it was kind of like it's not that close for him.
I don't understand that. I think there are a ton of commons that I take over that card.
I think so too. I do think it's good. It has performed well for me. In the same way that I just mentioned how I think flying is even one little mini notch above where it's normally at. I mean, Unblockable obviously is excellent at that too. There's so many cards that gum up the ground in this set, right? It feels like there's sort of been like a shift. I'm going to actually write an article along these lines for the mothership about removal. I've got like a spreadsheet with where I'm kind of mapping out the removal over the, like, basically since I started playing again, in like Shards of Alara around that area. And we've seen a big shift in the way removal is implemented by people in R&D at Wizards, right? I mean, it's just a totally different thing now, right? Like, Doomblades and Lightning Bolts are
It's not
gone.
the cheap, efficient.
Yeah. And now we get the
slow and clunky
5 mana, 6 mana stuff that is pretty effective, but pretty clunky. And, that makes things like Mystic of the Hidden Way a little better in the sense that since people don't have access to those cheap spells, they look for other options. And, one of the things we like to talk about on the show, we call it defensive speed, right? And we've been using that for a while now. And it's basically just like in a control deck, you would think, oh, well, control deck wants lots of removal. Sweet. So I'll take all these Rites of the Serpent or whatever. And I have lots of removal now. But the problem is you get ran over, right? So the solution to that is you need cards that are meant to be defensive, but that you can deploy early. Often this just comes in the form of like a bear, right? Sometimes you're just like, I'm playing this smoke teller so I can block, right? Like, I want to trade for, Alpine Grizzlies and make people unmorph and do whatever.
Just something to do early.
Yeah, something to do early, right? But what I've seen a lot of the control decks do in this set is play O5s, O6s, O4s, cards like that cost 1, 2, or maybe even 3 mana. And then their plan is just to block all day. And Mystic of the Hidden Way puts a huge wrench in that.
Yeah, it's absolutely one of the best finishers for sure. And, I've seen some people go out of the way to just splash the card even.
Yeah, I have too. I don't know if I agree with doing that.
Again, I just don't think it's up there with the best commons, but it's certainly, a great card, and you'll take it certainly if you're playing blue.
Yeah, for sure. Next is Summit Prowler, the Yeti.
Oh, the Shattering Minotaur, or Shattered Minotaur, whatever his face is.
Oh, the Borderland Minotaur?
Borderland Minotaur, right? He's a 4/3?
Yeah, 4/3 for 4. 2 red. Quick thoughts on this, Kenji. 2 red. How much does that scare you?
2 red.
Yeah, double mana symbols. Like, that's pretty rough in this set if you're playing 3 colors.
Only 3 colors.
Yeah, or more.
Okay. For me specifically, yeah, the double red turns me off of the card. But I mean, if you're playing Mardu or something, or just one of the clans with red in it, I think it's fine.
Now wait a minute. What did you mean when you said for you specifically? Are you 4 or 5 color guy or what?
Oh yeah, I've been forcing 5 colors
really?
all day.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I've watched your stream twice recently, and you were on at least 4 colors every time.
I've been killing this format with 5 color.
Oh, that's funny. I just assumed I happened to pop in when you were playing it, but it looks like it's just the way you run. But Summon Prowler, not really good in that kind of deck then, right?
No, but again, it's a 4/3, right? So it beats all of the morph creatures. It's just a turn after them, so they're unlikely to morph them if they're the good important 5 flip morph creatures,
Right.
And the 4 power, that's sizable.
It's a beater.
Yeah.
Next is Rugged Highlands. That's the red-green refuge, as we call them, the one that gains you a life.
Yeah, all the lands are very, very first pickable.
Including these dual lands?
I think so.
Okay. Very, very first pickable, he says.
Again, that's based on my own.
Yeah, but I'm going to get your take. I want your take on that. We're going to get that when we're done with the Crack-a-Packs. Scion of Glaciers. So this is the 2 blue 2/5, and you can pay a blue to give it +1/-1 until end of turn. Same problem as the Summit Prowler, or are you more likely to run a card like this?
I'm more likely to run a card like that, just because it's more defensive, but you can flip it, if you need to go on the offense. I don't know. 5 toughness is huge. A lot of the morph creatures in this format flip up to like a 4 power. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think this guy's quite good, and I kind of like it that you can play him a little later, and he still has impact on the board.
Oh yeah. The nice thing is if they attack their morphs into him, you can just block, and or they have to act first before they can, if they don't want their morph creature to die. And then if you have a trick, well, you just get them good.
Yeah, and what I've noticed is people just don't. You get this guy gone down, and they're just like, nope, not attacking into that, which is sweet. Next is our second uncommon. It's Mardu Charm.
Yeah.
So real quick,
right.
This is it can do 4 damage to a creature, which has got to be its best mode. But it's also got, you can put 2 1/1 white creature tokens onto the battlefield. They gain first strike until end of turn. Or you can have, basically we call it a duress effect. Target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose a non-creature, non-land card from it. That player discards that card.
Man, I had a sweet game with Mardu Charm. I think it was yesterday or the day before. I was playing 5 color again, and my opponent was playing a sweet, effectively Boros, splashing for a few black cards, and including the Charm. And I've been sitting at like 1 or 2 life this whole game, stabilize, and then on the last turn, he goes to his draw step. I Mardu Charm him. He had drawn Active Treason, which would have killed me.
No way.
Yeah, it was so sick.
And you just got it?
Yep.
Oh, that's sweet. Wow, that's sweet.
Yeah.
And so were you able to kill him the next turn or what?
Yep. I waited until the turn before I would kill him, and then, I used it on his draw step.
Wow, that's sick.
Yeah, it was quite nice.
Next is Warden of the Eye.
Ooh.
Yeah, so this is 2 and Jeskai for a 3/3, and when it enters the battlefield, you return a non-creature, non-land card from your graveyard to your hand.
I love this card.
That's a value card right
I
there.
love this card. It fits into every single one of my decks.
What are you usually getting back with it?
like Treasure Cruise or Murderous Cut type things.
My God, you are a sexy beast. That is awesome. Getting back Treasure Cruise with Warden of the Eye. I have not done that yet, but I would be interested.
It's the best.
All right, so that's a high pick for you. Our rare.
Dun, 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 dun. Not mythic, rare. I
Meandering Tower Shell. It's the 5/9 turtle that takes a full turn cycle just to get in the red zone whenever you attack with it. It comes back. Oh, I had a depressing moment. Do you want to hear it?
Absolutely.
My opponent had Meandering Tower Shell on the battlefield, and I had Act of Treason in hand, and it wasn't correct to steal it. I had to steal something else and kill him instead. But I was like, oh, sweet, I get to combo off. I'm like, oh, wait, I just win. Yeah. So if you guys haven't seen that, the clause on Meandering Tower Shell says that it gets returned to the battlefield under your control, your being the controller of the card, not the owner. So if you Act of Treason and attack with it, it blinks away, it comes back tapped and attacking on your side, and then it just stays there. It's just like, yeah, I like you now. And so I was going to do that, but like I said, it ended up being just incorrect play because I could just win that turn instead, and I obviously couldn't with stealing the Meandering Tower Shell because it doesn't attack forever. All right, so not a great rare here. Let me see what we've got. I've got Warden of the Eye, Mardu Charm, Scion of Glaciers, Rugged Highlands, Mystic of the Hidden Way, Alabaster Kirin, Abomination of Gadul, Hooting Mandrills, Feet of Resistance, and Crippling Chill. I left the Tower Shell, the Summit Prowler, the Disowned Ancestor, and the Anok Tracker sort of on the sidelines. It's a pretty stacked pack, though.
Oh, yeah, lots of good uncommons and commons.
Yeah, so what are the ones that stand out to you the most? I got the feeling that Warden of the Eye was one you were interested in. Is that true?
I think so. I think that's my my number one pick there.
Mm-hmm. What comes next for you? Like, is it like I think one of the things I'm trying to figure out is do you have the idea of I want to take the most powerful card in the pack regardless of anything, including color commitment or whatever, or is your mentality more like I want to start off here and then kind of see where I can go from there? You know, here being maybe one color.
No, I just usually prefer to take the most powerful card in the pack because it's so easy to play any number of colors in this format as long as not too many other people are taking it that aggressively.
Okay, so Warden of the Eye is your guy then as far as value goes. You like it better than Mardu Charm?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. And what about the land?
I do first pick lands often. That's generally in the weaker packs. I don't think this pack is weak enough where I'd want to take the land over, say, the Warden, the Charm, or even, I don't know, even maybe the Hooting Mandrills.
Mm-hmm. Something like that. Yeah. There's a lot of great. I mean, Feet of Resistance is sweet. Alabaster Kirin is really sweet.
Oh yeah, the Kirin's in the pack too.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
I think Kirin is actually my second over Mardu Charm.
Interesting. I'm really happy to hear you say that you like the Kirin because I just have been kind of like sitting there like, this card just seems good every time I play it, and it's super annoying every time I play against it. And even if I read the card and I'm not like blown away. When those two things happen, that's when I read the card again and kind of go, no, this just for whatever reason fits into the format. And,
exactly.
What would I take here? So my approach so far has been different than yours.
Okay, what's yours?
I have absolutely played the 5-color decks, and I think they're sweet. Yes. I really do. But what I usually end up doing is backing into them.
Oh, is like a
like I'll start off. I'll start off with like either wanting to be like a 2-color deck with a light splash into a 3rd color, or I'll want to be a 3-color deck committed, and then those decks, those 3-color decks, where I'm drafting it and I think things are going well, and then I end up taking a couple of cards that are a little bit off color, or I end up with a couple of lands that are off color. Then I'll be like, screw it. We're 5-coloring here. Like, I feel like it's open.
The most powerful now.
Yeah, and then I can like set myself up for like, say, the second half of pack 2 and all of pack 3 to just be, prioritizing lands in a lot of ways and being able to take the bombs and stuff.
That makes sense. I think that's a good approach to the format too.
Yeah, it's a safer one maybe. It's not quite like, because the thing I always fear, right, is like this pack's a perfect example. If I take Warden of the Eye, I could just be Jeskai, and then maybe that just happens. But let's just say I've got my eye on 5-color. I really want this Rugged Highlands back. And if I feel like the next pack I take blah, 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 and there's also a dual land in there, I really want to get that back, and none of them come back, I feel like oh, like I could be one of those people that are like scrambling for lands in pack 3 and can't take anything good just because I have to basically prioritize any land,
Yeah. I think that happens way too frequently for me. Maybe I'm just not doing it right, but what happens is I either take, 7 lands out of the first pack and then all my spells the next 2 packs, which I think is better to do. Or I end up taking every single powerful card across all 5 colors for the first pack, and then I'm scrambling for fixing, the last 2.
Yeah, that is the worry I have. But I have to say, there is more fixing in this set than like ever, right? Like I can't remember a set that had this a level of fixing, especially given that the lands, right? Like they went for all of the refuge lands, not just, the enemy ones like we see that are kind of highlighted here. All of them are there. I'm like, all right, well, apparently they want us to be able to play 5 color. And I said, I have
the tri-lands and you have the, the artifacts, and it's like,
yeah. What do you think about the banners?
I'm not a huge fan of the banners. I'll play them if I need the fixing, or if I want that late card draw. But generally, I'd say I put them in the sideboard.
Yeah, it's been exactly my approach. All right, let's open this next pack.
Oh God, that sound! Got the tingles just hearing it.
How about the smell, buddy?
I don't have that pack in front of me.
Oh, I know, I do. God, that feels good.
I have that conspiracy box still from
Oh, from when we did the thing?
Yeah.
Oh, do you?
I should just start opening packs every day. Just
interesting.
Just a little sniff.
I bought. I would probably wake up and have my conspiracy box missing at some point, and find pictures of you, having, like just OD'd on the smell in your bed or whatever.
No, I'm just on your couch, passed out.
Yeah, Kenji, no.
The wrappers, that's true.
This is good. We should make a little short story about this. I wonder if we can get Walking the Plains to shoot it for us. This would be very funny for you and I, and not that many other people. All right, first card, Enoch Tracker. We have already opened him already. Those. Yeah. Next one, Defiant Strike.
Yeah, it's a 1-mana cantrip. It's fine.
Yeah, it doesn't really fit in what you like to do, though, huh?
No, because you usually want that in your like Jeskai Prowess decks or whatever, or just aggro white or Mardu rather.
Oh man, I drafted a Jeskai deck, and I didn't know I was Jeskai. Like I was kind of jockeying around like I do, and I opened a Mantis Rider in the second pack, and I'm like, well, we'll take this and like maybe look over to Jeskai, and then in the third pack I got Jeskai Ascendancy and Jeskai Charm, and and it was nasty. Like, yeah, it had one of those curves, just one of those dreamy, ridiculous curves where you go like 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop. In fact, it was Jeskai Elder Morph Alabaster Kirin, and then on the 5th turn I played Jeskai Ascendancy. And then Force Away, the only blocker.
Just going off.
Yeah, I just completely went off. It was stupid. And then on the next turn, I played Defiant Strike and Singing Bell Strike. And it was just like, my creatures were like 100. My opponent was just like, wow. I'm like, yeah. And that's the first time I've had a chance to do that in Limited, and it was sweet.
No Flying Crane technique, huh?
No, did not pick that up. Yeah, sometimes you don't run good. Scaldkin.
Oh, that's the second card in the pack?
Third.
Oh, third. Right.
Yeah, Tracker, Strike, and now we're on Scaldkin.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I read it, I thought, okay, I like effects like this, but the more I read it, the least impressed I got.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
All right.
He looks good on paper, but...
Yes. He's like the opposite of Alabaster Kirin.
Exactly. Right. He trades with all the morph creatures, and you don't want to do that.
No.
Like,
it's nice to have the flexibility.
To kill a morph creature anyways, and then you're just like, well...
Yeah. Smoke Teller.
That's the green look at face down creatures.
Yeah, it's the bear, and you can pay 1 and a blue to look at a face down creature.
It's filler. It's fine.
Yeah, I found this card perfectly fine. Like in the decks that can cast it, I rarely don't run it. Like I just want 2-drops in most of my decks either way.
Agreed.
This one has not impressed me a lot, but maybe Sidisi's Pet.
Oh, the 1/4 lifelink?
Yeah, is that a card?
I think it's okay. It's usually sideboard against the aggressive decks.
That's what I do too.
Against those decks, well, it's very good.
All right. Soul Type Banner. We just talked about those. And a card I just mentioned, Force Away, is our next card.
I like that quite a bit.
I like that card too.
Because people are generally investing so much mana into one creature. Just 3 for the morph, 5 for the flip, or whatever the flip is.
Yeah.
You're getting 6 mana or whatever. Right?
Yeah, it's huge. The thing that, and this I'm going to write about this in that article too, is that I think starting with Theros, and we were forced into this a little bit because of Bestow and Heroic, but still, bounce spells really started to get a lot better. Like
Yes.
what I've noticed is that when we used to have lightning bolts and doom blades and pacifisms, when you take those away and you make them cost 4 or 5 mana, you start to get a little desperate, maybe desperate, but you really want ways to interact with your opponent's creatures for less mana than that.
And the soft removal becomes a little bit better.
Yeah, it just moves up the chain, and I found Force Away the same. Like, it's not that it's amazing, but there was a time where Unsummon was printed in like multiple sets in a row, and just nobody ever played it.
Yep.
Because you're just like, why would I play that when I can just play this that just kills the thing for an extra mana, right? And like, I don't have to deal with it. And now all of a sudden there's like Force Aways and Voyages Ends and stuff look a heck of a lot better. So that's one I've got my eye on as well. Windscarred Crag, that's the red-white duel.
Nice.
Bring Low. Where are you at on Bring Low?
I think it's okay.
Yeah.
I always play it if I'm running red. I usually take it in my 5-color decks. You're not going to cut it generally, and there's certainly some sweet interactions that you can do. Somehow giving incremental growthing their guy, and then I guess that's fringe scenario, but you know what I mean.
No, but that's a thing that actually matters. But yeah, I feel the same. Like, I never cut it, but it's not really that exciting. Mm-hmm. It kind of, and it's sick too, because, researching for that article, this is the lightning bolt of the set.
Yeah.
That's it. You're looking at it. Bring Low. It's like, talk about low. All right, this next one, I like this one a lot. It's Snowhorn Rider.
Yes, that's the 5/5 Trampler.
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
Yep, he just runs people over. That guy's just great. The thing I really like about that one too is just it's simple, right? It's like, it doesn't really care what else you're doing. It doesn't really care what they're doing. Just smash face. I love that.
So is he like the second or third best morph of that?
So in my mind,
cycle?
let's see here. So the Snowhorn Rider, now there's the Ponyback Brigade, which is a sweet one because even if it gets forced away, you get value. Yep. Like, they don't actually want to. The downside to it is that it doesn't put up something that can get through, a bunch of blockers like a Snowhorn Rider can.
Yeah.
The Abomination of Gadul is, I think, an excellent one.
I agree.
3/4 flying is a really nice sweet spot. And the looting effect is great in general and particularly great in Sultai, so I really like that one. The Weapon Master of Freet, or is it a Freet Weapon Master? Either way.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that guy has definitely been responsible for more damage than most of these, I would
blowouts,
say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that thing is just nasty. And then what's the other one?
The Abzan Guide?
Oh, yeah, the Abzan Guide. And I think that's actually the best one.
I think so, too.
Yeah, I think that one's, like, it's not flashy, but holy crap. Like, aggro decks just cringe when you flip that thing over.
8-point life swings, just and then if you have the freaking Savage Punch with it, 12 points.
I know. God. Oh man, remind me to ask you about Savage Punch later too. That's
okay.
what I've got my eye
Savage
on.
Punch.
I think that Abzan Guide's the best. I think Snowhorn Rider's the second best, and in my mind, I actually like Abomination, then Ponyback, and then what's the other one?
The Ifrit.
Yeah, the Ifrit. That's the order I like them in. But God, they're all excellent. Like they're really tightly bunched up at the top.
I think Ponyback is actually my least favorite. That's the one that I tend to not ever run in my 5-color decks.
God, really?
Yeah, but I always run the other ones.
Yeah, they're all good. Next is Abzan Battle Priest. This is the lifelink one.
That one is super spicy.
God, that one's good. I was playing a side draft and I lost to it.
Any creature that has an Outlast that only costs 1 mana, especially.
I know. Yeah, this cycle is sweet. The uncommon ones, the trample one, the flying one, and this one are just absurd.
They almost seem a little bit pushed, especially the 3 mana ones, because they're 2 3s already.
Yes.
Like, what?
Yes. 3/4 flyer on that first activation on Abzan Falconer is insane.
God.
Yeah, and Battle Priest makes it basically impossible to race. Yeah. I think this card's excellent. Next is Cranial Archive. Have not had the occasion to run one of these. I suppose that I will at some point, but we're not there yet. Ooh, it gets interesting.
All right.
Frontier Bivouac.
Bivouac
Bivouac is how it's pronounced.
What? I went to dictionary.com and
I did too. It said bivouac.
It said bivouac.
I think you can actually pronounce it either way.
Oh, well, now it's like a pseudo meme on my channel.
Oh, it is?
Bivouac.
Bivouac.
Bivouac. We just keep repeating it.
I like it. All right. So Frontier bivouac. Yes, sir. I mean, that's kind of where you want to be, right?
Yeah.
Tri-land. Oh, speaking of mana fixing.
Oh, wait. It's a Trail of Mystery.
Close. Not really close. Bloodstained Mire.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So a good one. But certainly, for limited purposes, not nearly as good as Frontier Bivouac.
I love it.
But so what do we got here? We got Snowhorn Rider, Battle Priest, maybe Bring Low. There's a Force Away. Let's see. This pack is way worse than another one. Holy smokes. I know what I'm taking out of this pack.
You're taking the Battle Priest.
You are correct.
I'm taking the... See, it's a tough one here because I think the Battle Priest has so much upside.
It does. It's so good.
It's either the Bivouac or the Battle Priest for me. I couldn't tell you right now.
So this does,
toss.
and let's use this to transition into our discussion, because I think that this particular choice really does highlight kind of the differences between ways that you can approach the format, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I'm taking the Battle Priest, and the reasoning is it's one color. Like, that's very attractive to me because this can go into multiple decks. But you're considering taking the Bivouac, and that's because it's multiple color, and you're actively looking to go as far away from that as possible. And I think that's like super interesting because the times when I've drafted 5-color, like I said, I've generally kind of backed into it as opposed to sat down and been like, all right, boys, put on the goggles and the mask. Yeah, here we go, And I think that's really fascinating how you can take that. Now, it sounds like you've really been, for lack of a better term, just forcing 5-color on your stream.
I agree. Yeah, I have.
And you've had a lot of success with it?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I don't know if somehow somebody found like a rating bot and we're over 1900 still. I don't know if that's accurate, but
those are accurate. Our friend Charles Wong, he showed me that.
Yeah.
Also, did you see that that they're bringing ratings back?
Yeah, on like the 22nd, I think they said.
Yeah, on the big update. Yeah.
Yeah, next week, actually. Next week.
Which is awesome. I'm super happy about that. I never thought that I cared about rating that much because I'd check it occasionally, but I wasn't like actively tracking it every day or anything. I would just sort of keep an eye on it.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And then I missed it. Like, once they took it away, I was like, crap. Like, I actually want to know like how I'm doing, and super excited to see it come back.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit more relevant for me, maybe because the stream always wants to know, well, is this guy worth watching? Does is he have like a 1500 rating? Is he making terrible plays or whatever? And if
and it turns out you have a 1900 rating and you make terrible
plays. I just did.
So what led you down this route though of deciding that 5-color decks were the way to go in the format?
One, I think it's the most fun.
That I definitely agree.
I have an aspect. I have to be a little bit of a showman, right? So these 5-color decks are always, everybody's like, oh, this deck sucks. Oh, I mean, what are your win cons? And then we always 3-0, and they're like, okay, you're right. And then after it started continuously happening, they started to be like, oh man, this deck looks sick. Oh man, and then I don't see as many lands getting past me these days.
Yeah, I've noticed that too.
So I don't know if it's something that I do necessarily because I think it's the best, but it's certainly very fun. And when it works, man, is it sweet.
Well, put yourself in like a Grand Prix situation.
Sure.
I know that you would have no problem drafting a 5-color deck in there.
Absolutely. God,
would you be looking to?
Yeah, I think so.
You would be.
I think so.
Okay, yeah, because that's kind of the dividing line for me is like, all right, you're day 2 of a GP, right? Where like you're not rare drafting anymore. You don't care about tickets or showmanship or anything, right? It's just a matter of like, what is going to get me into the top 8 of this event? And that's where I think the truth comes out where, I've had a lot of pet decks in a lot of different formats that I've drafted on, for my videos or just, when I'm drafting myself on Magic Online, but that I would not, try at a GP level, right? Like I know what's good. And you're saying you think 5 colors, up to that standard.
I think it is. I think it's up there with some of the best, just straight 3-color decks. And watching the Pro Tour coverage, a lot of the pros were saying that it's a good backup if it's open.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I think that the vibe I got from the pros generally was that it wasn't their first choice. In fact, I think most pros said that they would prefer to be two colors,
Sure.
or two colors with a very small, kind of like what you would call like a regular limited deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, a small splash, right? Like with solid mana and consistency, so that you could ideally punish you, right? For running these kind of crazy decks, because actually, and I want you to talk to us about what are the downsides to running a 5-color deck?
Okay, well, the biggest one's clearly the mana. You're not always going to be able to cast things consistently, but that's where the morphs come in, right? You're always going to have a 3-drop usually, which is really, really nice. Another downside is you might not be able to, I don't know, get past the early game of the opponent if they are running that just not even an aggressive deck necessarily, just one that kind of curves out with, normal colors.
Mm-hmm. And they just present threats to you, and you're kind of like tap land, morph,
exactly.
That kind of thing.
So I think the biggest downsides are the lands, and you're a little bit slower than them.
Now, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, so you really need to prioritize cards like Death Frenzy and stuff that can really get you back.
Interesting. Yeah, because one of the things that you'll see, like, because I'm a big fan of drafting 5-color decks in the cube, for example, and it feels kind of like that here, where you can really prioritize lands and then kind of figure out what you're doing after, with the freedom to just draft any spell you want basically down the line.
Yeah.
But the one thing that, like, the dividing line for me in the cube, and I'm wondering if it's somewhat similar here, like, is if I'm not going to take a land for this pick, then what is the criteria, and to take a spell, and the criteria for me is raw power level, right? Like, if it's just a card that is just super, super powerful just in and of itself, then I will take it, or card advantage, right? Like cards that can dig me back from being behind, or just draw me a bunch of cards so that I can make sure I hit my land drops, get my colors, and can deploy my superior threats or whatever.
Yeah.
But, it's always about that. Where's the line for you here?
I think I do take the powerful cards a lot higher than the card draw, or, getting me back there. So Abzan Guide, very, very high pick for me. Snowhorn Rider, a little bit below that, and the Abomination of Gadul, a little bit below that. In my 5-color decks, I never tend to really run the Ponyback or the Ifrit Weapon Master. But there are so many good, commons, and a lot of them are morph in this format that it's really weird. People are scared of your morph creatures, so you can, kind of mind game them. A lot of time you're attacking in with your 2/2s when it's a chump attack, but they don't know that. You have 5 mana open, you're attacking with your Kintree Warden. God forbid you're playing the 1/1, that regenerates for 2. Yeah. But it's a mind game, right? With all the morph creatures, it's the threat of activation, the threat of what it could be, the danger.
Sure. Yeah, and people do respect it. I mean, once you hit that, you play that 5th land,
you just jam your land on 10 and 5, attack and everything,
and they're just like,
I can't block.
And I do it too. I mean, I very rarely, like, I love snap calling people who I think are bluffing me, or even just trading my cheap creatures for their combat tricks and their turn. I don't mind doing that at all, but here it's just like, God, I can't block. Like, I block,
it's so
I just
bad, because if they do have it, you're so far behind.
Yeah, you just get so far behind that you just can't really position yourself that way. Again, that's another reason why I like cards like Force Away, because I feel like I can block and make them spend mana, and then force it away, and then they can't recast it, and that's really awesome. Or I can just catch up, like I can say no attack, no blocks, and they're like, sure, spend 5, flip my guide, you take a hit, and now I feel like, well, at least I have some type of recourse to recover from this.
That's why a lot of the I guess the tricks in this set are so much more powerful, because you have your morph creatures. You can either morph your creature, or you can use your combat trick, and it's really hard to play around everything. So people, I don't know, if you know what to watch out for, you're more likely to make maybe not the correct play, but the more optimal play than, say, somebody who wouldn't recognize what you could have there.
Sure. How would you classify the decks as far as aggro mid-range control? Like where does your normal 5-color deck fall in that spectrum?
Control for sure.
It's just all control. Like you're looking to block, make the game go long, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm looking at my latest one I drafted yesterday. It's got 2 secret plans in it. So that's the green-blue enchantment face-down creatures you control get +0/+1, and then whenever a permanent you control is turn face-up, draw a card.
Yeah.
The sad thing is I only... It wasn't until match 3 where I actually drew a card off of it.
God. But,
I mean, just... they're always a little bit slower, right? They're never super fast.
Right. Okay. But what about I remember I was watching your stream and you had, I think it was a Bellowing Saddle Brute maybe.
Oh yeah. That's in one of my 5-color decks too.
Yeah. And that's not a card that you would normally associate with a control deck, but you were able to slip that in there and figure out how to run it.
Well, no, I think you can put Bellowing Saddle Brute in any deck just because, again, everybody's going to have a morph creature to play on turn 3. And so generally they're not going to have something big enough to profitably block. So you're just attacking with your morph creature. Sure, if they trade with their morph creature, that's fine. Then you play your Bellowing.
I see. Either way. And
Saddle Brute, I'll just jam that on 4 if I'm not attacking anyways. That card is huge.
Yeah, that card is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Did you see the draft that we watched, Reed Duke draft?
Oh, God, I did.
He took 3 Saddle Brutes.
I know, but it's...
Which is nice. I was a little skeptical of the last one. I felt like he was pretty well saddle bruited up, and I think there was a removal spell I wanted him to take or something. But
I would just jam every single one of those.
Yeah, I'm certainly not cutting them.
Yeah.
The card is ridiculous. So what about removal? What are you like? Are you looking for a lot of spot removal in these 5-color control decks you're building, or are you kind of letting the creatures speak for themselves?
Generally, the creatures speak for themselves. I'm never going to play Rite of the Serpent in my 5-color decks.
Oh, really?
Oh, that card is way too slow. Cards like you said, Force Away, which is maybe not necessarily a hard removal spell, but it buys you time. Arc Lightning, that's another great one. It's an uncommon, sure, but it's cheap and it can generally kill at least one morph. Things like that. And just big creatures. Sultai Flare, the 3/4 for 4, stuff like that.
I love that guy.
Yeah.
That guy's great, yeah. So, but basically, you're actually not prioritizing spot removal.
Oh, no.
You're never cutting like a murderous cut, but what about like a Throttle?
Throttle is, I think, my favorite of the bad removal spells, quote unquote bad. I think Throttle's pretty decent.
Arrowstorm?
Does
that have a home in the type of deck that you like to draft?
Generally not. The double red hurts.
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
A lot.
It hurts a lot. And then when it comes to bombs and stuff, the whole payoff here, right, is that you get to just play any of them.
Yeah, and they're not necessarily bombs per se, just, all of the multicolor morph creatures on 5. You get to run, like, the Glacial Stalker, I think, is fine. The 4/5, the blue creature with morph for 5.
Yep.
And then there's, like, the...
with a Woolly Loxodon? That's
exactly.
My boy.
That one's lovely.
That's my boy.
Everything in combat.
He's bigger than everything.
Yeah.
So what do you not want to see? Like, which clan or color pair or whatever are you just like, well, can't beat this one?
Oh, against my 5-color decks?
Yeah, like when they start playing their creatures and their lands, are you just like, well, hopefully we don't find Mardu because I never beat them or
No, I crush Mardu. Screw Mardu.
All right, so which is the one that worries you?
Usually like Jeskai.
Oh yeah, the big hitter.
Yeah, well, they'll play some early creatures, right, and then they'll have a lot of combat tricks or just bounce and stuff to not only pump their dudes but buy a lot of time against you, and it's a little bit rough.
Yeah, that can be tough, and they also have the ability to get in such huge chunks of damage
out of nowhere.
Yeah, I've taken. Yeah, like a whole bunch, like they'll like Jeskai Charm and they'll get like a couple of prowess triggers and you're like, oh, I guess I take 7. No, that's fine. I'm at 13. And then like they attack for 2 or 3 the next turn and then they like arrow storm you and you're like, okay, I guess I'm at 5. And then they untap and like Master the Way, target you, attack with everything. And you're just like, crap, like I thought I was doing fine here, but I've noticed that deck can just pile on. Like it has more reach than decks that we're traditionally used to.
It feels like the colors they're playing have access to so much removal in every single color, right? The blue with all the bounce and all the tempo, crippling chills, force aways, water whirls, that type of thing. White has got the kill shot, the smite the monsters, the suspension fields, red arc lightning, the bring lows, the arrow storms, like you said, and it's just 1, 2, 3 punch.
Yeah, I've been slowly coming back around on Jeskai. When I first drafted it, I didn't like it at all. My reasoning was that I made a couple of threats, and my hand was really well positioned to support them. Mm-hmm. Jeskai Wind Scouts and that kind of thing.
Yeah, lovely card.
And then my opponent killed those, and I was like looking at my hand, and I'm just like, I can't do anything. Like
that's the problem with the Jeskai deck, right? They usually don't run, or the creatures they do run are kind of frail by themselves, and if those creatures die and you're stuck with all those tricks or whatever, it's like that.
Yeah, I've got crippling chills and force aways and defiant strikes in my hand, and they don't do anything if I don't have any pressure. Like it's such a one-sided type deck. It does not transition to defense well at all.
No.
Where you take like an Obzon deck, for example, and you can play an Inoc Tracker into like maybe a Falconer or just a Morph or whatever, and even like a crappy 4-drop. For that type of deck, like Assault Road Patrol, which I'm not saying the card's crappy, but playing a 2-powered 4-drop isn't exactly what you want to do if you're beating down. Even that, like, that transitions to defense perfectly fine, and also can attack pretty well too if you wanted to. Yeah. So like I guess my initial thoughts on Jeskai were just like, well, why would I bother? But I think that the answer is kind of what we discussed, which is that you really can lay on, like, especially against decks like what you like to draft where they're going to be dirtling around for a while. Mm-hmm. You can just lay on huge chunks in the early stages through tempo plays and then finish off with, any number of finishers too. I mean, there's like Trumpet Blast if you've got some tokens going, like a Hordling Outburst, Trumpet Blast, something like that. There's Arrow Storm, Master of the Way, which are both great. There's Active Treason to just steal their best thing and kill them. Like, finishing the game seems not that hard at all. It's just getting that board presence to stick. Yeah, that's the hard part. That's the one that I'm not so excited about, especially when compared to other clans.
I agree there.
Yeah. So I think I want to try drafting this 5-color deck a little more assertively now that I know that you're on board with it. Because I've been definitely trying to take a more conservative tack with it and just like have a really solid deck every time. And like it's worked, but I definitely admit that sometimes my deck has felt a little underpowered compared to what my opponents are doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, on the other end of the spectrum, I have drafted monocolor.
What?
Yeah.
What color did you draft?
It was mono white. I was forcing it. I had just forced a 5-color draft beforehand in 3-0'd. I think this was during the pre-release events.
Uh-huh.
Let me take a look here. Yeah,
that's insane.
I had just drafted a 5-color deck beforehand, and we went 3-0 with it, and everyone was like, "Oh man, this isn't going to work." And that was in the top 8 of a 64-man draft. So it was the very first 64-man draft they had available for cons.
And you top 8'd it, and then drafted 5-color in the top 8,
and won. And everybody's like, "Oh man, this deck sucks. You can't get there." Win round 1, win round 2, win the finals, and then I'm like,
"That's amazing."
We're gonna try something new. I forced the mono white. Clearly, I opened Wingmate Rock in pack 3. Not gonna lie. This deck features triple kill shot, double Kirin, double Salt Road Patrol. It's got the Wingmate Rock. It's got Dazzling Ramparts.
Okay.
The only non-white card it's playing is Monastery Flock, but I'm running no blue to flip it.
It's just a morph?
It's just a morph.
That is incredible.
Yeah. It was... I mean, it wasn't very splashy or anything, but it went 3-0.
Was it pretty easy 3-0? Like, just casting all your spells was amazing, or what?
Kinda, yeah. I mean, I have... Let's see. This deck has Bondkin, Falconer, and Battle Priest, so 3 of the best Outlast creatures. And
Jeez.
Then, with the triple kill shot, I can outlast my creature, very easily and hold up a kill shot.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, that deck seems insane. I have definitely not done monocolored yet.
Yeah, so it was kind of weird.
I heard somebody drafted mono red at the PT.
Oh, do you know how they did?
I don't know how they did. The person who told me said the deck was just okay. I want to ask you. I want to ask you about
Savage Punch.
Bear Punch. Yeah. So I on the flight back home, I ran good and I got upgraded to first class on the way back, because when you fly a lot, you get on these lists or whatever. Yeah, and so I was like, sweet, and because I basically stayed up all night drafting after the PT, and so I was a wreck anyway. So I'm like, I get to get some sleep. And I walk in and I'm sitting down, I'm kind of getting set and having some water or whatever. And then boom, in walks, Owen Turtenwald and Huey Jensen. And they're sitting right
I saw
in
your
front of me.
photo.
Yeah. And I'm like, hey guys. And they're friends of mine, outside, like I talk to them anyway. Two of my favorite people, on the Pro Tour easily. So we're joking around and having a good time, but we started talking a little bit of Magic, and we were actually talking about that conversation that I had on air with Sifka. But they were asking me what I thought the best common in the set was. And, I don't really think in those ways. Like, my answer was, what are my choices? Like, I know that sounds silly, but those guys really try to get into this, like, sort of top to bottom grading of the set thing. And I don't really find, like, a ton of value in that, because like, you don't have to, that's not how, like, if you rate the rares from top to bottom, it's never relevant because you never have to choose between the two, right?
Maybe two at the most. Right?
Yeah. And that's only in, like, extremely weird circumstances, like once per entire set, maybe that happens. Yeah. And I mean, even getting two, foil rare and a non-foil rare in the set, they also have to be two of the top ones to make it matter. Like, you could just get foil junk rare, right? It's like, it just doesn't pop
Generally,
up.
there's a clear choice even then. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And so, for me, I try not to spend like too much time with those, but they are interesting to talk about, and they do kind of force you to put your flag down on, well, this is what I think it is, right? And they said, and I said, well, my default answer would be Debilitating Injury, because it's the cheapest removal spell that kills the most relevant things. And they said, yeah, we were thinking that too, but both of them, interestingly, have Bear Punch, the Savage Punch, as kind of a rocket. They really feel like it's one of the premier cards, and it has been overperforming for them lately. Where do you have that card?
No, I agree. At the beginning of the format, I passed that card so many times in draft. I even overlooked it during my sealed pools, and chat was going crazy. You need to run at least one of these, or you need to run your Savage Punch or whatever. And then as the format progressed, I've been liking it a lot more, especially in the Abzan and the Sultai decks, for sure. I mean, it's great in Teamer because your creatures are generally large as well, but it does do a ton of work, surprisingly.
Yeah, I told them it's been on a rocket for me too. Like, I'm not willing to put it as the best one.
No.
And the reason for that, and I explained this to them, and they were like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. And I don't think that they were just like, this is definitely the best common and that's it. They were just sort of like, this one's really caught our eye. Where are you at on it? Was more like the vibe of it. But, the reasoning for me is just the conditional nature of it, right? Like, if I'm going to put a card, I mean, it's a removal spell, right? And so if we're viewing it in terms of removal spells, and I'm trying to think of, well, what's the best removal spell in the set? It really can't be one that depends on me having, well, a creature at all on the battlefield.
It's conditional, right?
Yeah, but furthermore, a creature that's either 4 power or just bigger than what my opponent's creature has. And also the fact that it's a sorcery means that, it's like it has too many strikes against it for me to just think of it as just like a ridiculous card. But I do think it's better than it looks, and I do think I'm valuing it higher than I used to.
Agreed. Again, it fits in that it's very cheap, and in this format, a lot of the removal is slow and dirtily.
Yeah. I mean, like, when you think about it, there's three and maybe the fourth that come to mind along these lines. I think about Force Away, Savage Punch, Debilitating Injury, and then sometimes Kill Shot as like sort of the efficient, removal spells that and again, they're not even like Savage Punch is sometimes removal and sometimes it's dead.
Yep.
And sometimes you get 2 for 1 when you play it, right? Debilitating Injury is the most solid of all of those because it kills morphs and it's easy to cast. But even then, it's not an instant and it doesn't kill everything. And then you've got Force Away, which we mentioned is the best as far as being instant, being cheap, but it's not removal. It doesn't actually kill the thing. So, it doesn't solve the problem that you have. If you're behind, it'll only just, keep you from dying for a turn, which isn't really the name of the game when you're behind. But,
I think I like Kill Shot a lot, though.
And Kill Shot I like a lot. The downside, of course, being that if you're the aggressive deck, it can get stranded in your hand fairly frequently. But in any mid-range deck and any control deck, I think Kill Shot's excellent. Like, I think it's really, really good.
Well, even in the aggressive decks, if you don't need to use it, that's probably a good sign.
Yeah, that's true. But I think people say that, and I hear what you're saying. But the thing I think that they tend to overlook is that, like, aggressive decks tend to get outclassed the longer the game goes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they have this pressure on them to finish the game. And if you have a card stranded in your hand, that could have been a creature or a combat trick or, something that could help you actually finish that game.
Yeah, it's kind of like a mulligan.
It's kind of like a mulligan, right? And I mean, look, I'm not saying you don't run it. I do. I'll usually put one kill shot at even in my decks when I'm trying to be aggressive in, because it doesn't always work out. Like, I don't think that you just should plan it. Well, my deck's aggressive, so therefore I will always be the aggressor. Like, that just doesn't happen that way. Sometimes they play, some big bomb or whatever. They like, oh, here's Butcher of the Horde, right? And you're like, well, I was the aggressor until they played Butcher of the Horde on turn 4. Now they are, right? And you need a kill shot. But, there is a tangible downside there, right? Where even if you're ahead, maybe you could have closed out the game and maybe you don't because of kill shot, right? So it's something to consider at least. But I agree with you. I put that in a pretty high class, like, cards that just say destroy target creature and only cost 3 mana, even if they're conditional, it's like, that's pretty good. Especially in a set where we just don't get removal.
Yes, agreed.
Anymore. Yeah. I think that, my favorite clan so far has been Sultai.
Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, that's just me though. Like, that's just like value, right? Like, I know it's like maybe a little played out, but that is how I roll, and like all I really want to do is play Sultai Soothsayers and Treasure Cruise, and just go off or whatever. But
okay, so tell me, what do you think about the card Taigen Scheming?
I think it's garbage.
Yep. Okay, good.
Yeah,
I'm glad you think so too. Everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people always want me to get that card in my deck.
I know,
for some
buddy.
reason. They're like, oh man, it's 2 mana and
I know.
fuels your delve, and it's not exactly scrying because you can, put things away and you get it. Oh man, No,
that card. Yeah, it's funny. We've had to have this discussion, and I've had people ask me on Twitter this as well. And it's just, the fact is you can get a similar effect in the same group of colors from Scout the Borders, and it is infinitely better.
Yes. God,
right?
Scout the Borders is so good.
It's so sweet. Like, most of my Sultai decks always want one of those in the deck. I don't really want more. Like, look, I still respect the fact that I can't just do nothing forever, even if that's kind of what I want to do. So I try not to go overboard, but like, to me, Taigon Scheming is like fully overboard. Like, that's a card that you are trying way too hard if you're playing Taigon Scheming. I did give it a little bit of consideration at the beginning of the format, even after I think I gave it an F in the set review, but I remember thinking, there is a little sliver of hope for Taigon Scheming if there's a deck that exists that is like the most all-in Delph deck. Yeah. But it turns out that you don't need to do that. Like, the Delph cards will pop up and you will find them. And by the way, those are my favorite cards of the set. When I went to the pre-release, I actually went to the shop where I met you, to World of Collections locally to us. For those that don't know, Kenji and I live just a couple miles from each other. And the first time, I remember when I met you, Kenji, you were coming back from college in between classes, and you would show up at the shop and just smash everybody. Like, who the hell is that guy? and then eventually you moved back after you finished school. And you started doing more magical stuff, but you were pretty busy those days, I don't know, drinking or doing whatever it is that you were doing.
Sure, right.
But anyway, where was I going with that though? God dang it!
Something about.
I like reminiscing though.
It was like your favorite Delve cards, and then.
Yeah, well, anyway, my main point just was that like all I really want to do in the format is like use my mana efficiently and draw a bunch of cards, and Delve is like perfect for that. It is just the best for letting me do that. And then they tacked on all this extra cool stuff like looting from the Abomination, which I love looting, and like the bounce spells are in that color set. I think that it's just the best.
I agree. I love Sultai, and if I can go base Sultai in my 5-color decks, I always try to. More often than not, it's because I've gotten past or opened up Villainous Wealth. I don't know if you have the chance to play with that card,
dude. So we did a draft. Well, can I? Anyway, I've done a draft. It was a long time ago.
Okay,
let's just put it that way. And I Villainous Wealth. I second picked it or first picked it. Like, oh my god, this card's sweet. I hadn't seen it at the time, and I jammed it. And by the way, what I was talking about before was going to the shop.
Okay, sure.
Because my pre-release pool was Sultai.
Gotcha.
Anyway, and so I was
seeded
just
pack.
Yeah, my seeded packs and stuff. So anyway, that's where I was going with that. But anyway, and I villainous well, and I did it for 6 on my coworker and opponent. And it was just the best feeling. I was like, I hit 5 out of 6 things that I could actually put on. And I was like, this is the sweetest card ever. And you heard what BDM calls it?
What?
He calls it Nemesis Wave.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people started calling it that.
How
my chat.
sweet is that
Yeah.
for a nickname? It's got to be like the best nickname ever.
I think villainous wealth decks are the times where I have run banners the most.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. Just because I always want to hit 9 mana, you know?
Yeah. Oh, hey, I wanted to ask you about another card. What about Dead Drop?
I don't like that card.
You're not a big fan of Dead Drop.
No, I mean it can be good, but it's they're just. I think I sideboard it, or I leave it in my sideboard usually for game 1, and maybe if they're not running, a bunch of cheap dirtle creatures or tokens or like a ponyback brigade.
I know, it's so nasty when they do that. I had a guy that I was playing against at the Pro Tour. It was the Pro Tour photographer, Craig Gibson. And he loves to draft, and he listens to the show too. And he made a nice play where I attacked him with a Highland game, an Elmer, and I tried to get him to trade. And because I can't remember what I was attacking into, but the trade would have been beneficial on his end.
Okay.
And I wanted him to trade because I had Dead Drop in my hand, and that would have left him with 2 really sweet creatures that I could Dead Drop away. And instead, he played Mardu Charm for the tokens and ate my Elmer and left both tokens behind. And I'm looking at my Dead Drop and I'm like, crap. That plan backfired in the biggest way. I was able to eventually Dead Drop 2 non-tokens, but it still left him with his 2 best creatures. So it definitely made, like, it was very difficult for me to try to get full value off Dead Drop. At the same time, I've just straight up lost to that stupid card.
Oh, absolutely. But man, I think it could just be, well, for lack of a better term, dead in your hand a lot of the time.
Yep.
I think you're right. It doesn't do enough.
Now, how much does that, like, is it competing with a lot of Delve cards in the decks that you run? Or, like, what if Dead Drop's your only Delve card, for example?
I'd be more inclined to run it, but I think
but still, the baseline of what you said sticks.
Yeah, I think it's unlikely that it'd be my only Delve card too, man, because there's too many sweet Delve creatures.
Me too, totally. But like, it does start to add up. Like Shambling Attendants, which always feels like it's 1 turn behind, but feels so sweet when you get it on the board.
I've never cast that card,
dude.
The 3/5 Death Touch. Yeah, I've never cast it.
Yeah, that card's
it's
legit.
huge. I think it's fine, but
I'm a big fan of it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll try that out.
The problem that I have with it is getting it onto the battlefield. It costs 8, with Delve. And if it costs 7 with Delve, I think that the card would be really, really, really good. At 8 with Delve, it's just pretty good. Like, I never run more than 1. Occasionally, it doesn't make the cut. It's one of those sort of, 22nd, 21st type cards. Mm-hmm. But my God, every single time I get that thing on the battlefield, I feel invincible. Like, people are playing these walls. You don't care. They have to double block the stupid thing just to get it off the battlefield. So if you're at a stalemate, you can just start throwing it into their creatures and eat up 2 of them pretty easily, which I love doing. And then if you, God forbid, you're playing like Obzon and you've got like a Feat of Resistance or something, forget it. Like, they just can never, ever deal with this stupid thing. And if you're on defense, it's the best blocker in the set. Like, it just sits there and it's like their bombs, well, maybe not the best because it doesn't have reach or anything, but on the ground, there's just nothing that gets through it. You're just, you get to eat or trade with anything you want.
I guess that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So you said it's usually your 21st or 22nd card. Does that mean you usually run 18 lands in this format?
Yeah, I usually do.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been fairly consistently on 18 lands. The only decks that I don't are the more streamlined decks that have a lower mana curve, like basically a bunch of 2-drops. Because I don't know about you, but when I, after I end up sorting my cards, my 3-drop is just stacked up every single time because of morphs.
Yeah, I love it though.
I do too. I think it's great. But it also means that like missing your third land drop is death, and it also means oftentimes that missing your fifth land drop is death. So
That's also true.
Yeah, I'm pretty committed to 18 lands in this set. Are you doing the same?
Oh yeah,
19.
I used to at the start of the format. I used to run. I think it was 17 lands, draw every time, and then it progressed to 18 lands, draw every time. But now I just always 18 lands, play every time.
That's what I'm on. I'm on 18 lands on the play too. My main reasoning is just those tap lands can really kind of sting you if you happen to draw one at the wrong time. I want to make sure that I'm the one to go. Plus, that tempo hit you mentioned earlier, where like if you get to attack your morph with 5 mana up into whatever, then they just can never block.
Yep.
And that's just like, if you're on the draw, you just don't get that opportunity very often.
Yeah, it's so much harder.
Yeah, I'd love the card, but there is tempo involved in this set in the form of morph, and that really makes a big difference.
I completely agree.
Yeah. So what about aggressive decks? You love beating down. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're not like you don't have a deck that you go to just smash somebody's face?
Well, just because I think it's just because the format is. I guess maybe not slower, but so much more dependent on making your mana correct before you can, really do anything. I don't like drafting the Mardu decks that frequently. I tend to go with a slower Soul Tie and stuff like that. Although it feels very good playing Scout the Borders into the Scavenger, because man, Scout puts 5 cards in the yard.
Yes,
and then you Scavenger for 1 black and just exile the rest. And
yes.
Yeah.
And both Scavenger and Hooting Mandrills have been quite strong for me too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that both of those cards, I think that they're perfectly balanced, right? Like they just seem like the type of the ones that they really put a little extra time in on, as far as like getting them developed just right, where you always feel like you're happy with what they're doing, but you never really feel like you're just like, well, that was completely broken, and now I've completely dominated the game.
Mm-hmm. It looks like I'm looking through some of my old drafts.
Mm-hmm.
When I do go aggressive, it's usually Black-White Warriors.
Right. So you end up picking up the Chiefs and kind of going from there, or
the Chief, and then the Chief of the both Chiefs.
Either
Chief. Both Chiefs, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then you end up splashing like maybe an Armament Core, Abzen Guide, or maybe a red card, But generally, try to stick to as close to Black-White as you can, and that's very good. I've turned, Raiders spoils in that deck just makes everything.
Oh, that's the +1/+0.
Yeah, and then if you hit in with a warrior, you can pay a life to draw a card.
Yep.
Yeah, so
that's nice. What are some of the underrated cards that you see right now? The card that like maybe it comes around and you're like, God, I can't believe this is still in the pack. Like, what are the cards that stand out to you for that? Like, are you like a Rakshasa's Secret guy? Or you don't like that one? What about like Bitter Revelation? Are you a big fan of that one?
No, I'm not a big fan of that. I think Keru Bloodsucker.
Oh, I saw you do some serious work with that card on your stream.
I think Keru Bloodsucker is really underrated. So that's the 1 black 2 colorless for a 2/2. So it's like a morph creature.
Yep.
Whenever a creature you control with toughness 4 or greater dies, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just it's a triggered ability. You don't even have to do anything for that one. And then you can sacrifice another creature by paying 1 black 2 colorless, and you put a 1/1 counter on it. So not only is it gaining bonuses from your Outlast creatures that give bonuses, it gives you a sack outlet to neuter spells, gain you some life, stuff like that. And with how many huge butt creatures in this format, I'm going to call them huge butt creatures, the Bloodsucker just gets so much random value, I guess.
So like if you can manage to stabilize the board, you can turn that thing into a win condition, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I saw you had 2 of them on the battlefield when I was watching your stream last, and that was sick. Like the life swings were massive off of that.
And that was in one of my 5-color decks where I'm playing Monastery Flocks and Dragon's Eye Savants, Salt Road Patrols, so everything triggers.
And Saddle Brutes, by the way.
Yes.
Which is sweet.
I lost that game though, if I remember correctly.
You did.
Okay.
But it was close, and I think that like your opponent, like it looked like your opponent had you completely buried.
It was like every turn I was going from 3 to 1, 3 to 1, 3 to 1.
Yes, and you just couldn't quite find the thing, or that you needed to get over the top, or maybe have your opponent just brick a couple of times in a row. Yeah. But I mean, it was insane to watch just because that bloodsucker basically kept you in the game single-handedly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you had to chump with one of them, so you weren't able to. But like again, if you had any other creature to chump there and were able to keep both of your bloodsuckers, like all of a sudden your opponent, like I don't think your opponent realized how close they were to dying.
Exactly right.
Like there was one time where he just shipped with all of his guys and got you to one, and you could have cracked
one
back.
Creature.
Yeah, and and played a creature, and you could have cracked back for lethal. Like it was that card just adds up so fast. What about Keru Dreadmaw? Have you played that yet? The 4 and a black 4/4 with Defender, and you can play 1 and a green to sack a creature.
Yeah, I played that.
Life.
It was in conjunction with like the Bloodsuckers and the swarm of mosquitoes or what?
Swarm of bloodflies.
Bloodflies, yeah.
Any thoughts on the Dreadmaw? I've been experimenting with it and found it a little better than I thought it would be, but not.
Yeah,
not
it's better than I thought, but I don't want to run it because again, there are so many huge toughness creatures in the format where, hey, that swings races by a large amount. But it's a defender.
Yes.
Right? I don't like the card.
Yeah, I'd rather have a shambling attendance.
Yeah.
Plus, that works well with that. And maybe I'll draft a 5-color Bloodsucker deck for my next video.
Problem is, Bloodsuckers are uncommon.
Oh, it is uncommon, isn't it? Yeah, so you might just not get there. But people don't really want them.
No, they don't. It goes very late.
Yeah, no, but I mean, look, everybody's like, God, I got all these morphs that are already 2/2s for 3. I don't need more.
Again, it's so innocuous, and then it just 2, 2, 2, 2.
Yep. What else? What else? Catches your eye as cards that maybe you see going a little later than you think they should.
I think we were talking previously about like Salt Road Patrol.
Yeah.
2/5 is huge.
It's huge.
Yeah, and then in any board stall, if you stabilize the board with other creatures, you can start growing it, making it larger than anything else. It's so hard to kill with just one other creature.
Right. I've been really impressed by that.
Yeah.
I had an opponent play 3 of them in a row against me.
Oh.
And I had a perfectly reasonable start, and I'm just like, I can't beat that. Like, I can't kill those. Once you get a counter and it's a 3/6, I can't kill it, and I'm never attacking through it. So here we go. And yeah, I got Salt Road Patrol right out of the game.
Yeah, I agree. And then another card I've been having a lot of success with lately is Water Whirl.
Oh, the double bounce?
Yeah, it's expensive. It's 2 blue, 4 colorless, but it's an instant, and it returns 2 creatures to their owner's hands. Up to 2. So you don't have to do exactly 2, up to 2.
So what's your normal, how does that normally go?
Well, it's usually in my 5-color decks.
Uh-huh.
But even in any other just regular clan with blue in it, it's so big on the tempo just because if you're bouncing a morph creature that they've invested, to morph and then unflip, and you're bouncing 2 of them, it's such a huge blowout. Like,
yeah, it really is.
It buys you a ton of time. They're unlikely to cast them both again, or at least not, face up. And then you're able to buy a lot of time just to get there.
Do you ever bounce your own creatures with it?
I don't think I've done that yet, but I mean, if you have like a Bear's Companion or a Warden of the Eye. Oh man, bouncing Warden of the Eye. Oh, infinite.
Get it back again.
Infinite.
You only need 100 mana.
11, but
That's still sweet. Ooh, new combo.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you think about Singing Bell Strike?
Man, I'm torn on this card.
I am too.
I generally leave it in sideboard unless I'm playing aggressive decks.
Yeah,
and
it's definitely been good in assertive decks of the Jeskai way. Yeah.
I think I might be more inclined to run it main deck now just because I like the slower dirtily decks, and it effectively removes a creature for until they hit 6 mana, and even then maybe they don't even want to do that,
Right. Yeah, and I think I think the main idea is just if you want to get something out of the way, Singing Bell Strike is your guy. But if you need to go
like 2
long,
mana,
it doesn't.
Exile target bear for 4 turns or whatever,
right.
And then put it back into play.
Which is great. I mean, it really is. And especially if, like, again, we were talking about Jeskai and the ability to sort of leverage these tempo plays. Mm-hmm. And Singing Bell Strike, it seems to be just one of the ones that fits in really nicely with that.
I agree. Because, man, if you're Jeskai and your opponent plays a big creature and they're like, yes, I've stabilized 2 mana, pump my dudes.
Yes.
Tap it down.
A couple more questions, and then I'm going to let you go.
All righty. Ready?
high toughness, zero powered things. Monastery Flock, Dragon's Eye Savants, Archer's Parapet. Where do you see these fitting in the set? How good are they? Do you run them often?
Parapet. I run them all the time. I'm sorry. That was a throwback to I think Mirage drafting online. There's a card called Parapet and another meme. I sat on stream for like 10 minutes just saying Parapet. I didn't even say anything else. But I love those cards. I think Ivan Flock, which I have deemed the Flock.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
It's very good. I love it because, man, your opponents, again, they're so scared of Morph, or at least generally people are scared of Morph cards, of what they could be. Mm-hmm. And because it's a single blue to Morph, if they're using like a Bringlow or something on it and you just flip it up, boom! That's so huge. And it blocks so many things on your way to playing whatever your win cons are.
What about Dragon's Eye Savants?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit worse than the Flock, just because, well,
you almost just said than Ivan.
Yeah, I know. Just because, well, no, I lied. It's an uncommon. That's why it's harder to get. That's why I don't see it as often.
Yes.
So, I think both of those are excellent.
Sage Eye Harrier. That's the 1/5 that morphs for 3 and a white.
Yeah, I run that card. I don't like it as much because
isn't it a lot better than Monastery Flock?
No, I don't think so.
Just because it costs so much to flip up.
Yeah, man, both of those blue creatures are effectively free, right? One blue or reveal a blue card. The Harriers are really big downside of flipping.
What do you mean?
Just in comparison, 4 mana
the price.
as opposed to
it's huge difference there for sure.
And then Parapet, I think, is another excellent card, especially because if you're playing Parapet, you're probably running green and black, and that fits very, very well into what the Kintry invocations or just the slow pinging of the opponent. I love those cards. I play them almost every time.
Yeah, I've been playing a decent amount of them in my multicolored decks as well, and so I'm happy to hear that because it feels correct, but they're not great cards, right? Like sometimes they die to pump spells, and sometimes your opponent is just like, sure, still attack with everything, and you're kind of like, well, but I do feel like these, at least in some way, are starting to replace the role that we had for that cheap removal, and again, just upping your defensive speed, and these things are really good at it.
Agreed.
What is the one card you want to open more than any other? And I don't mean, I'm not asking you what you think the best card in the set is. I just want to know. And outside of monetary, just basically when you open up your pack, what are you just like, come on? Like, for example, in Innistrad, I always wanted to open Spider Spawning.
Sure.
What do you want to open here?
I think you can guess. It's very easy. We've already talked about it.
Is it Villainous Wealth?
Yes.
You're such a monster.
That card is so much fun. Oh man, I've cast
awesome.
it so many times on the stream. One of the times, okay, well, let me say this. Almost every time I cast that card for 6 or more, the opponent concedes either that turn or the following turn. So let me preface this by saying that because I think that card is that good.
Okay.
There's one time I was playing against an Abzan player. I cast it for 6. I hit 2 Abzan guides, Anafenza, and Mur-Elk Nightblade. The
Mur-Ek.
Or Ek. Nightblade.
That is unbelievable. Are you serious?
And he just snap scooped. But just think about it. Like, I can attack with Anafenza and one of the guides. Give the guide +1/+1. It gets touch it or something. It's just like, I don't know.
That is ridiculous.
So good.
That's awesome. I respect you for saying that too, because you could have copped out. You could have been like, "Oh, I want Wingmate Rock or whatever,"
or Sarkin or something.
Yeah,
but no,
Sarkin,
Villainous Wealth every time. Then
you went for
it. If I can just open any card every single time, pick one, pack one.
I love it. All right, so I want to know before we let you go, Kenji, what do you got going on with the stream? Where can people find you? What can they look forward to seeing on the stream? Obviously, 5-color decks galore, but what's going on with the Numotthenummy stream?
Okay, well, there are some things going on, not only this week, but next week.
Okay.
So we had a subscriber goal, like a week ago. If I hit, a certain number of subs, we would promise a 24-hour stream.
Oh, one of your famous 24-hour streams.
Yes, and I had already promised a 24-hour stream for Khans anyways, so now we have 2 of them. We're going to have a 24-hour stream this Friday, 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
What's the date for that? Just for people that, if they, just so they know if it's already over or when it's coming.
That's October 17th.
Okay.
7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time over at twitch.tv/Numotthenummy.
Okay.
And then there's one the following Saturday, October 25th, 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Are you crazy?
Yes.
You are crazy. You're going to kill yourself.
I have a week apart to, recuperate.
You're old now, buddy.
I'm 25, man.
Yeah, that's like insurance-y number or something.
That is insurance-y number, you're right.
I can't remember. That was a long time ago. But are you sure you're up for it, Kenji?
I mean, I love Khans so much. It should be fun.
I remember the last time I came on your stream was at the tail end of a 24-hour session, or maybe it was longer. I can't remember.
They generally go to like 25 or 26 because it's hard to cut off exactly at 24 when you're in a draft or something.
Right. Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
And also congratulations on hitting your goal.
Thank you.
That sounds awesome. And I'm really proud of what you've done with that stream. I think it's fantastic. And I highly recommend it to any listener who wants to do two things. One, get better at Magic. You watch Kenji play, and you will learn a lot. He is an absolutely excellent limited player, but also have fun. Kenji has a real feel for, like you've heard him mention it, the showmanship of it. He's not just there to play and to show you what he's doing. He's there to entertain you too and make sure that you have fun when you watch. And everybody loves watching your stream. You've had some really nice numbers lately as well, right? Not just some subscribers.
I think everybody loves Khans.
Yeah, but also some really great numbers as far as concurrent viewers too, right?
Absolutely. 2K.
2,000 at once. Yeah. I mean, that is really fantastic for, considering that you're just one person, right? You're not like, on the Wizard stream or whatever being like, hey, you know what I mean? It's just you. You started this thing. How long has it been now? A year and a half, 2 years?
Oh, like 3.
3 years now?
Yeah, well, I guess it was so intermittent.
When you first started.
Yeah.
But, when you first started really doing it, I mean, geez. And you've really stuck with it. I'm proud of you, man. That's awesome.
Although there is one thing, and I'm sorry, Marshall, but I built a constructed deck yesterday.
Look, I just started constructed resources. You,
all right.
You're clean.
So expect to see constructed in the filler of our limited matches.
That is a great, by the way, running 2-mans in between is great.
Yeah.
You know what you need to do?
What do I need to do?
You need to get into vintage with me.
Okay, I have a vintage deck started already. It's the one that Randy Buehler's been running. I was watching his stream. I guess it was a little while ago.
Well, he changes it every week. So which one were you talking about?
Oh, it was the Oathstorm or whatever.
Oh yeah, Oathstorm.
Yeah,
you just went head first, didn't you?
I mean, I make. All right, well, with the standard deck especially, I've already made so many errors.
Yes,
the first few times I've played it, and then I'm sure I will never correctly play any constructed deck.
No, but that's cool, and you should totally do that. We should battle sometime or whatever. I've been playing Vintage on Magic Online, and it's fantastic, super fun format.
It's going to be a little while before I finish this deck out. I have all the power pieces and stuff like that, but it's still got a lot of expensive cards.
Yeah, I just decided to go ahead first and just sunk a bunch of money into it. I feel like I can get the money back if I need to.
That's true.
On short notice or whatever. So I just went for it. I had a bunch of it just from playing. Vintage Masters, Modern Masters, and like what are those other ones called?
The Masters editions.
Masters editions. Yeah. I've drafted the last few of those, so I just had like randomly a lot, and I just had like a bunch of holes, in my collection to fill for that, and I did. I just basically got it all. So, well, that's great. Where can people find you on Twitch? Where can they find you on Twitter or wherever else? Do you have a website? Like where can they get at you?
Main way to get at me is going to be on Twitter, and that's at Numotthenummy, Numotthenummy. I always post when I'm about to go live streaming like that, or any updates if I'm at a GP or anything, which haven't been too recently, but after being one win away at my last one, I
covered your winning in match. It was heartbreaking.
And Fated conflagration, man.
Yep, you got stuck. But that was brutal because for me it was interesting because like you're my friend and I was like super hard rooting for you in my head, but I have to stay like relatively, impartial in the booth, of course, because you're playing against somebody else who's trying really hard to win, and I have to be fair to them. But in my head I'm like, come on, Ken, you were so close to.
Well, it turns out he had lost his last 3 win-ins.
He did.
So
yes,
I think it's.
There was some level of justice, but still, I was like, ugh. Yeah, I was really pulling for you. So Numotthenummy on Twitter, where else?
And on Twitch.
Which is twitch.tv/Numotthenummy.
Correct.
All right. I, of course, will make sure to include both of those links in the show notes of this episode, just in case you're lazy and you'd rather just click a link instead of typing into the chat. Kenji, thanks a lot for taking some time to join us on LR. I know you'll be back again, maybe even sooner than later. I'm going to be kind of wheeling through people, but keep the bat phone active here just in case I
will do. The lights on in the signal or in the sky.
Yeah, good. All right, Kenji, thanks again. If you guys want to find me on Twitter, Marshall_LR is where to do it. If you want to discuss all things limited resources, the LR subreddit is where you can do that, and you can find the link for that along with every other link that's relevant to the show or any of the shows that I do, including constructed resources and the 1-for-1 and all that kind of stuff at lrcast.com. Guys, thanks for hanging out, and thanks again to Kenji. We'll see you next week.
Oh, 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 oh.